Hey, how's it going everybody? Alec and Stuff here, and welcome back to the channel where we just hit 2,000 subscribers. What? Oh my god, that's insane, seriously. Thank you all so much. I genuinely appreciate every single one of you. It's insane to think that anyone gives me or my content the time of day, let alone 2,000 views, so thank you very, very much. Alright, now on to the main attraction. So, in lieu of such a momentous occasion, I thought it would be fun to host our first ever, inaugural, never been done before on the channel, Q&A session, or, even better, Ask Alec. Hashtag. Yes, that's right. Now, you guys actually sent me a bunch of questions, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, our first question comes to us from Catastrophe and Octopengy, so two people asking me this question. What was the first console you ever owned? And to my knowledge, the first console I ever owned was actually gifted to me for Christmas for 1 year, and it was the Nintendo 64. Now, I remember very vividly hearing stories of my grandma scouring the town looking for one of these things, because, you know, it was the hot holiday item at the time. And she eventually got lucky enough to find one to give for little old me, which was, I think I was probably maybe 4 or 5 years old at the time, something like that. I'm sure if my mom's watching this, she'll probably be quick to correct me on that one, but, you know, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure that's where my love for video games all began, so thanks, Grandma. Emery says, do you plan on collaborating with any other streamers/players? Absolutely. I do have a few things in mind currently that I'm working on, but this is one of those things that I am almost always down for doing, so if anyone is interested in working together and watching this now, hi. Laurel asks, which house will you be in Fire Emblem 3 Houses? Well, Laurel, I think I can answer your question pretty accurately with just one single image. Long live the Black Eagles! Our next question comes to us from Mackenzie, who asks, what made you want to start doing YouTube in the first place? Okay, so, this answer actually has the potential to sound silly, but I'm gonna go for it anyways. So, my reason for wanting to post gaming content on YouTube came from my feelings of wanting to share my love and excitement for games with people. So, well, yes, I do, you know, have friends that I play and talk about games with. I don't really think any of them necessarily share the same level of excitement and found that same joy in games that I do. And I feel like what really drove that point home for me was, you know, when there's like a new Nintendo Direct that happens, or right after E3, you'll see those crowd reaction videos of just these, you know, groups of fans just going bonkers, absolutely nuts for like whatever announcements that are made, and just seeing and hearing the overwhelming excitement from the people watching was something that I felt myself, that I felt myself, and I wanted to be part of that. So I guess, you know, one thing led to another, and here I am. Matthew Perez asks, what is your favorite Zelda game? Oh, oh, this is a hard one for me, since, for me it's a close race between Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild. However, if I had to pick one, it would probably be Twilight Princess. That game is just, it's just so perfect. Our next question comes to us from Root Snail, who says, were you one of those kids who saved their game twice? Absolutely, 100%. And there are a few scenarios that I can remember myself doing this the most. First is anytime anything major was about to happen in a Pokemon game, so like right before a gym battle or right before like a face-off against a legendary Pokemon. Second is right after those moments, so right after beating that gym leader, I just made sure to save again just to make absolutely sure. Same thing for like right after I caught a legendary Pokemon. And the third is as soon as I saw my console's power light turn a slight yellow or a red, and I realize it's weird, okay? I realize it's weird that, you know, one save is typically enough, but it just never feels like it, and you gotta make sure to overwrite that save a few more times just to make absolutely sure, you know? Corbin asks, what is your favorite stream you've ever done? Probably our launch day stream of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate back in December. It was the first day of Smash Week, which was in itself really, really exciting and incredible. But getting to play that game for the first time with all of you was absolutely amazing. And it was honestly pretty hype once we got to the point where we unlocked the final character on the roster. It could take a step back and just look at the full size of it. And yeah, I mean, it still amazes me to this day, the amount of content in that game. It's just absolutely insane. But if I had to pick one, probably our launch day stream of Smash Brothers. Our next question comes from Adam, who says, what was your favorite game as a kid? Oh man, another tough one. My favorite game growing up, if I had to pick one, my favorite game growing up is probably going to be Pokemon Emerald for the Game Boy Advance, which is still a game that I love and adore to this day, by the way. But I just remember putting so many hours into that game. Sadly, I don't have my original cartridge anymore, so I can't tell you exactly how many hours I've put into it thus far. But I can assure you that little Alec did almost everything you could possibly do in that game. Twice, even, you could say. Man, I love that game so much, and sometimes I'd honestly just find myself traveling to a certain part of the map just to sit and listen to the music. Still good. Mystic Tacos asks, what was your very first job? My very first job, I was a camp counselor from a local YMCA. And basically, I was the guy that was in charge of, you know, all the kids that parents would drop off while they go work out. So, the kids that I was responsible for were around the ages of 7 to 15. And considering the fact that I was basically paid to hang out and play games with these kids, it was a pretty sweet gig. Plus, the kids were nice, even if they did have some of their off days. But nonetheless, I still loved being their counselor, so shout out to any of my Zone peeps that are still watching. Oh boy asks, what are your PC specs? Now, I've been asked this question before, and here you go. This is what my PC looks like currently. Honestly, this is subject to change, you know, every year or so, which is honestly why I don't really answer that question all too often. But until then, here's what my system looks like currently. Ginger Cake says, will you serenade us on the Otamatone? On the Otamatone. Okay, so this is actually kind of a funny question, but relatively recently, I was given an Otamatone for my birthday, and while I haven't actually had the time to sit down and learn how to play it yet, I have played around with it just a little bit, and was actually able to come across this melody that really, truly, and sincerely spoke to me, so just here, take a listen. And now, here to perform for you tonight is the one and only Alec and Stuff. Our next question comes to us from TeaLord, who asks, do you ever get burned out, and if so, how do you handle it? So, to be completely transparent, I have felt the feelings of burnout a few times in the past, though that's mostly come from my inexperience with and lack of balance in my life. It's just I wasn't able to, you know, efficiently juggle my day job, my personal life, and, you know, creating videos and streams. So it got to a point, actually, where I started to feel guilty about spending any time relaxing, because to me, it just felt like time wasted. And it was around like early 2017 to early 2018, I want to say, where I made that realization that that's unhealthy. And, you know, I made the realization, and since then, I've restructured my life and made it so that I have a good amount of time to do the things that I want to do, all while also having a good amount of time to take those little pockets that I do have of free time and just using them to relax and unwind and for myself. So for anyone that's having trouble and struggling with the idea of overworking themselves, take those little pockets of free time that you do have and use them for you, because honestly, you probably deserve it a lot more than you might realize. Our next question comes to us from PikaPower and Alexander, so another twofer. What kind of snake is Rusty? So for those that don't already know, I have a pet snake. There he is. His name is Rusty, and he's a king snake with a Mex-Mex pattern, which is the pattern that you see on his back there. And currently, he's about 7 months old and just over a foot long, so he's still just a little baby. But on most days, you can find him in his log or in his coconut. Those are some of his favorite spots in his tank. And here's one of my favorite photos I've ever taken of him. This was just days after he had arrived. Professor Shy Guy asks, would you slap this bunny for $60 million? I mean, I do love bunnies and all, but at the same time, 60 million is $60 million. Our next question comes to us from Mika, who asks, if you had all the time, resources, and equipment in the world, what's one big thing you've wanted to do for your channel? Oh gosh, a question like that's really hard. It's hard to say, because I feel like it's gonna vary differently depending on who you ask. But I say if I had to pick one thing, I think it would probably be just to have a room solely dedicated to capturing anything. So having a space where I can do things like live streaming, you know, couch co-op sessions, music performances, skits even, I think that would be ideal. And being able to do all of that in one space with relative ease would probably be the biggest dream that I can come up with at the moment. But I'm sure if you ask me again in like 4 or 5 years, the answer's gonna be it's gonna be different. But for now, I think just having that amount of space and, you know, that that sort of ability to do all that without having to move things all over that freaking place, I think would be an absolute dream. So hopefully that answers your question. And lastly, a ton of you also asked me where I hide my Lucina body pillow, and to that I will say that no, I do not currently have one, but I am always open to the idea of gifts should anyone feel generous enough to send me one. Anyways, thank you all so much for sending me your questions for today's video, and thank you times infinity to all 2,000 plus of you for subscribing. So I think that's going to do it for today's video, but I've got just one thing left to say before I go, and that is, of course, as always, I'm Alec and Stuff, and I will see you all again real soon. Bye! Blah.